At my best friend's engagement dinner, she leaned over and whispered, "I only asked you to be a bridesmaid because I didn't want you to feel left out, not because you deserved it." I sat there smiling for the cameras. What she didn't know was that her fiancé had confessed everything to me the night before. And I was about to end their fairy tale with 3 simple words. I'm not the kind of person who causes a scene. I was always the helper. The one people forgot about until they needed a ride or a favor or a cheerleader to make them feel more special. I used to think that was just my role in life. And for a long time, I was okay with that. Until Lacey reminded me, clear as day, that in her eyes, I was nothing more than a placeholder. Let me take you back. We grew up together in a neighborhood outside Charlotte, North Carolina. We met in 5th grade. Her family had just moved in. She had shiny blonde hair, a loud voice, and this way of getting everyone to like her without trying. I was quieter. Glasses, braces, secondhand clothes. We became friends after she told off a boy for making fun of my backpack. I thought she was brave. Looking back, she probably liked having me around because I made her look even better. But I didn't see it then. I just saw a best friend. We were close all through school, until we weren't. In high school, she'd ditch me for cooler people, then cry to me when they treated her like crap. I always forgave her. I kept thinking our history meant something, that it counted for more than a few parties or Instagram likes. I never really dated much. Lacey always had some perfect-looking boyfriend. She dumped them like old purses and kept her favorites around like trophies. Then she met Drew. He wasn't flashy, didn't have a six-pack, but he had this solid, dependable look about him. Like the kind of guy who'd fix your tire at 11 p.m. and never bring it up again. I didn't think he was her type at first, but suddenly, she was all about settling down and finding stability. I met Drew 3 times before they got engaged. He was polite, a little quiet. Something in his eyes seemed tired, but I figured maybe that was just work stress. The proposal happened fast. 6 months in, she had a ring and a Pinterest board full of white flowers and candlelight and hand-lettered place cards. She asked me to be a bridesmaid right after the announcement. I cried when she asked. I thought, maybe I really did matter to her. God, I was stupid. The engagement dinner was held at this rooftop spot in uptown Charlotte. You know the kind, $16 cocktails with edible flowers, dim lighting that makes it impossible to see your food but perfect for photos. The whole place looked like it had been made just for social media. Lacey had picked our dresses. Navy blue, tight in the arms, not flattering on me. She told me to just wear Spanx and suck it in. I kept my smile glued on. My mom raised me to be polite in public. Even if your feet hurt and your heart's cracking in half. Everything was fine, fake laugh fine, until dessert. The room was buzzing. Cameras flashing. People clinking forks against glasses. Lacey leaned in beside me, close enough for her perfume to sting my eyes. And she said it. I only asked you to be a bridesmaid because I didn't want you to feel left out, not because you deserved it. Just like that. Smiling, while saying the ugliest thing anyone's ever said to me. She leaned back in her seat like nothing happened, tossed her hair, flashed her ring for the photographer. I sat frozen. But here's the part she didn't know. Drew had called me the night before. Out of nowhere. Around 10:30 p.m. I was on my couch, in sweatpants, watching reruns of Frasier. My phone lit up. Drew's name. I answered, confused. Hey, everything okay? There was a pause. I could hear him breathing. I shouldn't be calling you, he said. But I don't know who else to talk to. He sounded drunk. Not sloppy drunk. The quiet kind. The kind where your words are heavy and slow. I don't think I can marry her. I sat up straight. What? She's not who she pretends to be, Carly, he said. She's been lying to me for months. He started talking. Fast. All the things he'd been holding in. She was still seeing her ex. Some gym guy named Hunter. She told Drew he was just her trainer. Turns out, they'd been meeting in hotels, even using Drew's credit card once to cover a room when her app glitched. She tells her friends I'm boring, he said. That I'm just a safe bet. He sounded broken. Not angry. Just done. I didn't know what to say. I told him to get some sleep. We'd talk later. I didn't plan to use any of it until Lacey whispered that poison into my ear, like she wanted to remind me that I was always the charity case in her life. That's when the decision made itself. I sat quietly for the rest of the night, waiting, watching.
Drew looked sick the whole time.
He barely touched his drink, kept glancing at Lacey like she was made of glass, and he hated the way she reflected. When dessert came, Lacey stood up to give her speech. She thanked everyone, talked about love and commitment. Her voice wobbled when she mentioned honesty. I saw red. When Drew stood to speak, I stood too. He looked over, confused. I spoke clearly.
Drew.
Tell them. The room stopped. He blinked.
What? Tell them.
Everything. Lacey's head snapped toward me. What the hell is she talking about? She said, trying to laugh. But her voice cracked. I didn't flinch.
Drew looked down at his hands.
Then he looked around the room. At her parents.
At the guests.
At the flower wall she'd forced him to take 15 photos in front of. And then he told the truth. He told them about Hunter. About the lies. The texts. The room charges. The things she'd said about him to her friends. The way she called him boring Drew, and laughed about how easy it was to keep him around until the wedding was over.
People gasped.
Someone dropped their fork. Her mother started crying. Lacey tried to spin it. He's lying. They're making this up. Carly's jealous. She's always been jealous. But then Drew pulled out his phone. He had screenshots.
Clear. Ugly.
Unforgivable. The rest of the night was chaos. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I just walked out slowly. I passed the photographer on the way down the stairs. He didn't meet my eyes. The wedding was canceled. Her influencer deals vanished. She tried to rebrand, but the internet never forgets. Not when screenshots are involved. And me? I didn't become famous. I didn't trend. But I did something more important. I stopped being her shadow. After the engagement dinner imploded, I thought it was over. I figured Lacey would go dark for a while, lick her wounds, maybe move to another city, like she always talked about. But I underestimated her. 2 days after the dinner, she posted a story on Instagram. It was a selfie. Puffy eyes, no makeup, hoodie up. Captioned, "Sometimes people you trust stab you in the back. But I know my worth. Healing starts today." And just like that, she flipped the script. She started posting cryptic quotes, talking about narcissists and toxic friends. She even hinted that Drew had abused her emotionally and that I had enabled it. At first, I ignored it, let her spin whatever lies she wanted. But then people started messaging me. Some of her old friends. People from high school. A couple girls we used to be in a group chat with years ago. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea she turned out like this. You did the right thing, Carly. She used to talk crap about you behind your back in college, too. I believed everything she said about you. Now I feel sick." It was strange. Like people had been waiting for someone to finally expose her. Like I'd kicked open a door they were too scared to touch. But it didn't stop there. A week later, I got a message from Hunter. The ex. Yeah, that Hunter. I recognized his name from the screenshots Drew showed me. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity got me. "Hey, Carly. You don't know me, but I think we should talk." I didn't know she was engaged. I found out the night of the dinner. If you have time, I'd like to explain. I met him at a Starbucks 2 days later. Neutral ground. He was surprisingly normal. Not some ripped douchebag like I pictured. Looked more like a tired PE teacher than a heartbreaker. "I swear I didn't know she was still with Drew," he said. "She told me they'd broken up months ago. That he was stalking her." He showed me his own texts. Lacey begging him to meet up, calling Drew controlling, pretending to cry in voice notes. "She even said you were obsessed with her," he added. "Said you copied everything she did, and that you'd go nuclear if you found out she still loved me." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so insane I couldn't even be mad. Hunter seemed shaken. I think the dinner fallout had finally made him realize he was just another piece in her game. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. She's been recording people. Secretly.
Audio.
Sometimes video. I blinked.
What?
She told me once that she collects insurance on people she doesn't trust. I didn't think she was serious.
But now?
I think she meant it. I didn't say anything. Just walked out with my coffee, my hands shaking. That night, I went through every conversation I'd ever had with Lacey in the last year. Every dinner, every car ride. Had she been recording me? Had she saved anything that could be twisted? And then I remembered something worse. About a month ago, I'd had a breakdown at her apartment. I'd just been passed over for a promotion and found out my ex was dating someone new. I cried in her kitchen for over an hour. She'd comforted me, kind of. Mostly just handed me wine and took selfies while I was puffy-eyed. Was she recording that? The paranoia started to settle in. I kept imagining some twisted, exposed video of me sobbing while she narrated lies over soft music and got sympathy from strangers online. But it didn't come. Instead, something worse did. She showed up at my work. Full makeup, tight smile, holding a coffee like nothing happened. I work in a medical office. She walked in like a patient, stood by the front desk, and asked to speak with me. I stepped outside, furious. What the hell are you doing here? She gave me that smile. The fake one. The one she uses when she wants something. I came to talk. We don't talk anymore. She sighed. You humiliated me, Carly. In front of everyone. And I've been thinking, I can either destroy you, or we can make this work for both of us.
Изцерта her.
Are you blackmailing me? She shrugged. I have things. From over the years. Conversations. Photos. Maybe even stuff your employer wouldn't love seeing. My stomach dropped. She didn't blink. You're sick. She leaned closer.
No. I'm smart.
And you're emotional. You lashed out without thinking. But I'm giving you a choice. Help me clean this up, publicly. Or deal with what comes next. I walked away. Didn't even answer. But I knew then this wasn't over. This wasn't a broken engagement anymore.
It was a war. I didn't sleep that night.
Her words echoed in my head. Help me clean this up, publicly. Or deal with what comes next. I paced my apartment like a caged animal. The blinds were shut. My phone was on silent. I kept picturing it, her uploading some edited video of me crying in her kitchen, adding her voice saying something like, "This is what manipulation looks like." And people would believe her. That's what scared me the most. She had spent years making herself look like the victim in every story. She knew how to cry without really crying. She knew how to twist words. And worst of all, she had a following, actual strangers who worshipped her every filtered post. But she'd made one mistake. She underestimated how tired I was of being used. The next morning, I called Drew. I hadn't talked to him since the engagement dinner. He sounded like a shell on the phone, exhausted, cautious. She came to my work, I said.
He sighed. Yeah.
She tried contacting me too. Told me she'd forgive everything if I did a joint statement about how we just grew apart. She's threatening me. With recordings. Stuff from when we were friends. There was a pause. Then, quietly, I believe it. I hesitated. Drew, did she ever record you? Another pause. Then, I think so. I found an old phone of hers hidden under the couch once. Recording. My stomach turned. We agreed to meet in person. Neutral location again. A park. Public, quiet enough to talk, but not so private that anything could go sideways. He brought a backpack. Inside was a folder. After the dinner, he said, I started going through everything. Emails. Old messages. Files. I found some things. He handed me a printed sheet. It was a transcript. A transcript of my conversation from months ago. The one where I cried in her kitchen. It had been transcribed, word for word. Even the parts where I vented about hating my job, where I said things I didn't mean, where I talked about feeling invisible.
Weak.
It wasn't just a memory. She'd saved it. Typed it out. Like evidence. I think she's been building dirt on people for years, Drew said. Insurance. Like Hunter said. I read through it, my chest tightening. She was never just my friend. He nodded. She never really had friends. Just people she kept close until she didn't need them. We sat in silence for a while. Then I said what neither of us wanted to say. We need to go to the police. He looked up. You think they'll do anything? If she recorded people without their permission, maybe. If she's blackmailing people, that's something. He nodded slowly. You sure about this? No, I said. But I'm done being scared. 2 days later, I walked into the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department with a copy of the transcript and screenshots from my phone. The officer listened carefully, took notes, asked me to email the files. I told them everything. The threats, the recordings, her showing up at my work, the history. They didn't promise fireworks, but they took it seriously. That same day, Drew filed his own report. He showed them texts, photos, and one voice memo he found on his own phone, a weird clip of Lacey muttering while testing her recording app, not realizing it saved. The next twist came fast. Lacey's landlord called me the next afternoon. She'd listed me as an emergency contact. Idiot move, I guess, from back when we were still best friends. She hasn't been home, he said. Her car's gone. I've had packages piling up for days. I didn't say much. Just hung up, knowing what it meant. She ran. Lacey disappeared from Charlotte a week after everything exploded. Her Instagram went dark. Her phone number disconnected. Even her parents claimed not to know where she went, though I don't believe that for a second. But just when I thought maybe it was over, a private message showed up in my Facebook inbox. Different name. No profile picture. You think you've won. You're not safe. The message chilled me. Just 5 words. You think you've won. You're not safe. There was no name. The profile had 0 posts. No friends. No photo. But it had been created that same day. I stared at the screen for almost 10 minutes, heart pounding like a drum in my ears. I tried to stay calm. Tried to tell myself it could have been a troll.
Just someone trying to scare me.
But my gut told me the truth. It was Lacey. I showed it to Drew. He came over that night. We sat on my couch, the same spot where I'd been when he first called me in a drunken panic.
She's not gonna stop, he said.
She's gonna keep poking until she finds a weak spot. She already did, I whispered. She knows how to get inside my head. The next morning, I called the officer who'd taken my report. He told me to screenshot everything and forward the message. Then he asked me a question that stuck with me. Has she ever shown signs of obsession? Has she done anything like this before? I wanted to say no. I wanted to believe this was new. But the truth is the signs were always there. Lacey didn't lose people. She just cut them out. Clean, cold, no goodbyes. She didn't take rejection. She rewrote it. Turned it into a narrative that made her the victim, always. I remembered something from high school, our senior year. A girl named Melissa, who was close with us for maybe 2 months. Pretty, funny, smart. One day she made a joke about Lacey trying too hard with her makeup. It wasn't even mean. But Lacey stopped talking to her overnight. Started spreading rumors. Said Melissa had flashed a teacher. Even printed fake texts and showed them around. Melissa ended up transferring schools. And I'd forgotten all about it. Now it felt like a roadmap. That same week, weird things started happening. My boss called me into her office. Said she'd received an anonymous email about me. It was a bunch of lies, accusations that I was stealing time, talking behind her back, even that I was emotionally unstable. The email was well written. Like someone pretending to be concerned. Like someone who'd studied how to make a complaint sound just believable enough. Luckily, my boss didn't buy it. I know you, Carly, she said. But I wanted to let you know it's out there. Then came the mail. 2 letters. No return address. Both typed.
No fingerprints.
One was just a printout of my LinkedIn page, circled in red. The other was a list of things I'd said during my breakdown, stuff Lacey must have typed out word for word. It ended with, Now imagine your coworkers reading this. I broke down.
For real, this time.
Ugly crying.
Couldn't breathe.
Drew stayed with me for 2 days. He didn't leave the couch. Slept in a chair. We barely spoke. Just sat in the quiet, waiting for the next thing to hit. Then one night, around 1:30 a.m., there was a knock on my door.
Slow.
Heavy. One knock. Then another. Then silence. I froze. Drew grabbed a bat from beside the fridge. I don't even remember putting it there.
Just instinct, I guess.
He looked through the peephole. No one there. But when we opened the door, there was something on the welcome mat.
A thumb drive.
No label. Just taped shut. We didn't plug it in. Not at first. Drew took it to a guy he knew from work, IT guy who owed him a favor. 3 hours later, we got a call back.
There's video files, the guy said.
Looks like security cam footage. From a hotel. What's on them? Drew asked. There was a pause. Then, it's her. With that trainer guy. Hunter. Dozens of clips. Some were just her walking down hallways. Some were worse. Why the hell would she send this to you? The guy asked. I didn't know. I still don't. Maybe it was a threat. Maybe it was a warning. Maybe it was her way of saying, I own every version of this story. Even the dirty parts. Drew looked like he might vomit. We didn't tell the police. Not yet. Because we were starting to realize something terrifying. This wasn't just personal anymore. Lacey wasn't spiraling.
She was planning something.
And whatever it was, we hadn't seen the worst of it yet.
We knew it had to end.
One way or another. I was done hiding. Done flinching at every ping on my phone, every shadow near my car. Lacey wasn't just trying to ruin my reputation. She wanted to erase me. To make me the villain in a story she wrote the way she always did, with herself as the wounded, misunderstood heroine. But this time, she wasn't the only one collecting receipts. Drew had been quietly building a folder. Not just emails and texts, but videos, voicemails, metadata. He'd spoken to Hunter again, who, to my surprise, had finally grown a spine. Turns out Lacey had recorded him too, without his knowledge. One of those videos even showed her admitting it, laughing, saying, "You never know when you'll need insurance." Hunter sent us the file. I still remember the chill in my hands as I hit play. That was the moment we decided to stop reacting and start striking back. Drew called a lawyer. Not a cheap one either. His cousin had married into money and owed him a favor. This lawyer specialized in digital privacy and online harassment cases. When we showed her the drive, the letters, the messages, she didn't blink. This is harassment, stalking, and criminal wiretapping. We filed an official complaint. The lawyer also advised us to go public. At first, I hated the idea. I didn't want to be some drama-filled clickbait. But she was right. Lacey thrived in silence. Thrived when people didn't talk, didn't fight back, just let her keep smiling while she stabbed them under the table. So we gave her what she feared most. Exposure. Drew wrote a long, detailed post. He laid it all out. How she cheated, manipulated, recorded people without consent. He included screenshots, dates, and, most importantly, the video clip of her laughing about recording Hunter. I posted my own story the next day. I didn't embellish. I didn't dramatize. I just told the truth. What she did. What she said to me at her engagement dinner. How she whispered that insult with a smile on her face while pretending we were best friends. I talked about the stalking, the messages, the thumb drive. I included the anonymous threats, the letters. I even uploaded photos of the envelope and the highlighted LinkedIn printout. The posts went viral. Not influencer viral. Real viral. Because people knew women like Lacey. The kind who smiled with you in selfies, then tore you down in private. The kind who cried victim only when someone else told the truth first. Within 48 hours, everything changed. Someone from her old job came forward, said she'd been caught recording private patient conversations at the dental office where she used to work. Another girl came forward from high school. Then another. She'd done this to so many people, we just never realized we weren't alone. The police called. They'd opened a formal investigation. Then came the knock at her parents' house, where, as it turned out, she'd been hiding all along. They arrested her, charged her with harassment, wiretapping, and obstruction. Nothing heavy enough to lock her away for life, but enough to wreck her brand, her job prospects, and her shiny, filtered image. She pled not guilty, of course, but the evidence was too loud, too real. She took a deal: probation, mandatory therapy, a restraining order. And her name, her real name, was now tied to dozens of court documents. She lost her sponsorships. She lost her followers. She lost the one thing she cared about more than anything: control. And as for me, I had to own my mistakes too. I let her walk over me for years. I stayed quiet to keep the peace. I ignored red flags. I let her guilt me into staying small. That was on me. But not anymore. I took a break from social media, moved to a new apartment, got a promotion at work. Drew and I, well, we're not together. We were never meant to be. But we're friends now. Real ones. The kind who've seen each other at rock bottom and still show up the next day. Lacey hasn't messaged me since. She's not allowed to. But sometimes I still hear her voice in my head. That fake sweet whisper. Not because you deserved it. And every time I hear it, I remind myself what I told her back. 3 words. 3 words that tore her world apart. Tell them everything. And he did. And she lost. Because the truth doesn't always scream.
Sometimes it just waits.